Hello, Ultra Buddies. Gardeno Games. We're doing a kind of like a tier list prediction on what we think will do well for the World Championship qualifier this month because there's a lot of BPO5 qualifiers. There is this in 1 week there will be Singapore. I feel rough for those guys. It's not a lot of time to practice set 5. And then at the end of the month on the 22nd, I think, is Australia. And then on the 23rd is Hong Kong. And then the second US qualifier in Ohio is December 6th. So it's like back to back to back to back to back, a bunch of qualifiers. And so that'd be fun to just like predict what we think will do well and what we think will not do well. And maybe if you're trying to figure out decks, then this will be helpful for you too. And then I think because of that, consider that we'll be talking a little bit about 2-deck format, and some of these ratings will be like mostly focused on 2-deck format as opposed to like if you play in Asia and it's best of 1, or if you play like we play best of 3, like single deck. So those are very different formats. So we're mostly going to be thinking about those 2-deck formats. And there's no particular order for the Ultras. So yeah, just run with it.
Yeah.
All right, so first let's do Jugless Juggler.
All right, so he got new cards.
He
but
did get new cards.
Haven't like played them all out, but I don't feel like it's an S tier.
No,
setup.
It's definitely not. It's tough because some of these are stuff that like we haven't played at all, so
Yeah.
we're kind of doing a little bit of guesswork here. My guess, I think it's somewhere between B and C. I'm tempted to go with C, just because we have played the level 4 decks, and I think they are kind of the defining factors. And I don't know that Juggler has the tools to deal with the level 4 decks.
Yeah, and just to repeat, this is a jugular main deck.
Right.
You could add a splash of this maybe in a Belial deck, and it could be as part of something strong. But by itself, like if you're trying to build a deck around him, you maybe throw in a little orb, you throw in little Belial or other Kaiju's 5 King, whichever. Still, yeah, it'll have a hard time beating any of like the new level 4s. Even some of the new level 3s are really strong.
Yeah, I think that's my big question mark. And yeah, so Gunkin brings up a good point. We are judging them based on the image being the main ultra for the deck. So this is a juggler focused deck. And then like, if we have the next one would be trigger would be, this is a trigger focused deck because we'll have Decker later. And Decker trigger, if Decker is the main focus, Decker trigger is kind of what we consider it basically. Yeah, so I think there's some sauce here, but I'm not that confident in it. So I think C feels about right for me.
And I mean, we'll probably have a different view of all these things towards the end of the set after people have like played around, found the right combos. But yeah, it's not looking very likely for me that this will like just come out of the gate really strong and dominating anything.
Okay, next is Trigger. Trigger didn't get anything in BPO 5. It's only the BPO 4 support, which was, to be honest, pretty lackluster. Do you have any thoughts about Trigger?
I mean, if you're building a Trigger deck, it's pretty much all around the Trigger Triple R, which is giving the plus 3,000 to a single, plus 2,000 to a double, and there's just bigger numbers all around the board that like a single plus 3,000 is very difficult to have like a lot of reliable impact. So I'm thinking. Yeah,
I'm thinking D. I think maybe if you have some thoughts on combos that you could do for like each hero as a support, I think we could at least mention them as we go through them, so that there's not like we're just not just dunking on people. I do think there's like some interesting combinations for Trigger in the new set. So like one that I think people haven't really thought of, although actually we saw someone in Japan try it, is G Trigger. I think that's something to at least think about. So there could be some room for Trigger in general, but as a main ultra, it is not here. We have everyone's favorite band boy, Mebius. How are we feeling about Mebius with the bands?
Mebius as a character, I feel like you might be able to still work into something, but as a Mebius main deck, Mebius hasn't gotten, I feel like, enough support to fill in the gap. The only support we had last set was Mebius Ikari, where I forget, it was like a triple on play, BP down like an Ikari lane. So I feel like Mebius Ikari could still, like, I'd put it C at best. Maybe someone's very clever and can make it work, but even then, like, I mean, I played against a little bit of Mebius Ikari in New York, and it just doesn't have the same oomph it had back in the day.
Yeah, that's true. I'm tempted to give it C, but I think I'm going to drop it to D. Actually,
I think I'm good with that. It's especially like if I'm comparing it to Jugular, it's not quite, I think, at the same level at this point.
Right. Okay. The next one we have is Orb. Orb. We saw it do pretty decently in some Galaxy Cups last set. The question is now, how can it compete with the new stuff?
So, I mean, there were some very aggressive orb plays you could still pull off, like last set with the Thunder Breaststar, and it's like 19 Ks here and some what 14, 15 Ks there. But I think it's still gonna lack that push to get it like into, like, I'm thinking C, because you could catch other like C tier decks with that same aggressive push, but like you don't really have a lot of means to break a 20K. So if your opponent gets to their quad, you've kind of just lost lane. And
yeah, that's true. I think I would have put it B if we were doing this for BP4, but I think it has an even smaller window to win the game now.
Yeah,
and so I think it's got to go right by his buddy Juggler. Okay, our first quad deck, Tiga, the Glitter Tiga. Why don't you talk about this? Because I think you're the Tiga guy on our channel.
I want to put it at least at A. Now, I personally like Tiga, and I would not be surprised to see a Tiga winner. But I think Tiga as a deck is still a little tricky to play, so it's all about finding the right pairing. So this kind of makes it very open-ended, because we're saying it's a Tiga main deck, but there's a big difference, I think, between someone playing Tiga Nexus, Tiga Blazar,
right,
Tiga Mebius, Tiga Ginga. I've started seeing some of those, so I would be surprised if we didn't see a Tiga in top 8. So that's kind of my starting point. But I wanted to get your thoughts on what's going to make an S tier deck this set.
That is a good question. I think maybe we'll start ramming things in A, and then once we have more A, we can kind of come back and see what we think will go on top. I mean, it was a bit different in the last format, where it was like Balton will clearly win. Like Balton is the favorite to win anything it's in. At least the games that I've played so far, nothing feels like, oh man, this is so much better than everything else. And I think if we're talking about Tiga main decks, I think it gets like a bump just from the format we're doing this tier list, and that like there are so many variations of Tiga that one of them will probably end up winning. I do think it's a really strong deck. I think it needs a little tweaking. At least from the versions I played, it still needs some work. So my guess is I'm willing to put it at winner. I would not be this is also like, I would not be surprised to see Tiga win. I'd be kind of expecting it. And Singapore, I might be a little shaky about Tiga winning, but all the other events after that, I'd be like, oh yeah, Tiga's up there. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, and it's going to be a little tricky comparing Singapore versus Ohio. There's just a lot of time between them to really fine tune these things.
Yeah. Okay, next we have Z, which is the deck that you played to great success in the past format, but did not get any BPO5 support. So how do you feel like Z is doing, with our new current overlords, Tiga?
So against Tiga is really tricky because I see Tiga winning just because Z needs to discard at least 1 to 2 cards to like break 18k, which Tiga has like easy access to. In last set had 18ks, but this is also an 18k that moves around, which I think is really important. Other games, like if you're playing Belial, like, okay, I know Belial is going to be here, so I just like either like really commit to that lane, or I just like dump it and then beat you in the other lanes. But with Tiga, that becomes very difficult to predict, and I think a better Tiga player, or like an equally skilled Tiga player and equally skilled Z player, the Tiga will kind of be able to just park the triple R where it needs to be, and then when you play the level 4 on top of that, then Z, like, you have to go. It's way too expensive to take, like, give plus 4 or 5k to a lane, and then also you need that scene control to to play like your unidentified whatever convoy order, and Tiga is a hard deck to take lead from.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put it in B. I think there's actually an argument to put it in C, unfortunately. So part of it is because I think it's going to be. I think I would be like, wow, someone top with Z. That's awesome. But I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, how did they top with Z? And I think one of the big things holding it back is what you mentioned is it's hard to get lead from decks like Tiga. But also I think Z, you paired Z with Ginga last set, and I think a lot of the level 4 decks are going to want to play as mono or close to mono, and Ginga is always like an easy add-in. So it's got a lot more competition for that Ginga support in a 2-deck format than it did before. So that's also kind of something. And then you mentioned the 18Ks on Tiga, and actually all the level 4 decks run 18Ks, like kind of standard package, which makes it tough. Okay, we have Arc focused deck. So to me, that means like Arc Hikari or Arc Ginga,
Arc Dyna,
or Arc Dyna.
Like,
we also have Dyna in there.
One,
So I think for the sake of, I don't know. Let's talk about all those decks. I guess I think they actually still stand a pretty good chance.
Because like the Arc decks can easily hit, like, they have 18Ks, which is nice. And the +1 from the starter deck means you actually hit 19Ks on some lanes. So between that and Arc to the Future, you can still put up a pretty good fight into like 18k lanes. Even a 20k lane, you're gonna need like to pull out every combo to beat, but if you're still able to beat all these other lanes and clear scenes, which I think is really important, it's gonna put up a really good fight.
I think it'd be good. I'm tempted to put this in top 8 because it also lost its main its main weakness, I would say, was Baltan. And also Ginga Victory is there, but spoiler alert for Ginga Victory, I think it struggles a little bit into the level 4 decks. So I think it kind of lost its Predator. So I think I'm kind of thinking Arc is,
because it's also a 2-deck format. So I expect this to be someone's like deck B that gets them in the game.
I forgot it's 2-deck format, so it's like it kind of expands these a lot. I'm so used to thinking of these as like single deck formats. Is it whatever? We already committed, but
and
I don't know if it's more useful for people to have this as a 2-deck. There's a lot of caveats to 2-deck, right? Like, oh, this is a deck B, A tier deck B kind of thing, as opposed to like a general power ranking.
I'm thinking of it as like I don't feel like constrained to say there can only be one deck in S tier because there's two decks. So that means like you could have 16 different decks be in A tier, though I expect overlap. So there's more room for like you can only have one or you can only have two decks in the S or A tiers.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. So I think Arc, I'd expect one to end up in the top 8 basically. So I think that's a good spot.
Yeah.
And I do think like I played Arc Dyna a little bit, like the unupdated one a little bit against I don't remember, just like in general. And like I think we've done some practice games with Arc Hikari, just teaching some new players. Like it kind of holds its own. So I'm kind of expecting this to do reasonably well. Okay, moving on, we've got Gaia. So Gaia Supreme. This is Gaia main. It's probably Gaia Ghoul. I don't think you could really get to pair Gaia with anything else, unfortunately. I know there's like Gaia Blazar fans and things like that but Gaia is the main one. For me, this is a B.
I think it's a good B deck. It got some good cards, I think, and let it try out some new things with the support it just got, and with level 4s, like you're gonna have more bouncing. I feel like some of those like Ginga Victory would give it a hard time. There's few Ginga Victories. Omega might still give it a hard time, which is why I wouldn't expect it to be in the top of the list. But some of the other decks that are playing a little bit more slow, aiming for turns 4 and 5, that's actually a good sweet spot for Gaia decks if they can get that bounce going by then.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, since we're talking about Gaia, let's just bring a Ghoul up to the front. I think it's about the same, except since it's a Ghoul main, I'm going to drop it down to C.
Yeah. I feel like the new Ghoul cards are really good, but I think it's that triple R Gaia that helps it really mess with the plans of a level 3, level 4, like heavy meta we're going to see.
Right.
And if you let Gaia take lead and is able to just keep bouncing your important cards out, then it's going to be really tough to get what you want.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like the reason you're playing Gaia Ghoul is for this Gaia Supreme, and if you go a Ghoul heavy, it's very hard to use that card. So that makes total sense to me. Okay, let's move on to Decker, Dynamic Decker, another quad rare, and it's got to be S or A for me.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I don't think I've played with Decker enough to like find that right balance. I mean, it doesn't need the scene as much. Like Tiga can really abuse like being able to take scenes and roll with that. Decker doesn't quite need it, and it's I don't think as good at taking lead. But that new triple R can be really important in these level 4 metas where if you have a 18k against a 20k like by turn, or even like a 16k triple by turn like 5, you'll be able to tie and then start beating 20ks.
I'm going to it's got to be S or A. I'm tempted to put it up with its level 4 buddy, but I don't know. I worry a little bit about like the consistency on this deck, mostly because the way I've been playing it is more like a mono deck, and I think sometimes you just But if it's a top 8, you have some leeway in terms of like having your deck kind of run out. I'm gonna go with A because I think it feels very similar to Arc in terms of like power to me. Okay, Nexus. What do you think about Nexus?
I expect to see a Nexus in the top 8, but I don't expect to see a Nexus main in the top 8, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what would you expect to see Nexus paired with then?
I mean, Tiga Nexus is one that people will still do. Nexus Zero could be some interesting ones. Even that's another one I saw last set. I feel like you could always fit. You could try to fit in like 10 Nexus cards to get to seeing clear. You just start playing Labyrinth. So I would expect to see Nexus, but for this tier list, building a deck around only Nexus or primarily Nexus, I feel like does lower it down a tier. Nexus is actually not that good normally for taking lead. You at most you really get like 14k in a new lane. Or if you're willing to discard the scene card, you get there's a BP down one, but it's now someone might be able to do something creative like Nexus Genga and solve those problems, but I would put it in like a B or C tier is what I'm thinking.
Okay. I'm gonna put it in the C.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen anything Nexus main, and I don't think the new cards are good enough to do it. It would be kind of interesting to take this like as a different approach of like, will we see the hero in the top 8 whatsoever? Maybe we can try that for another one. If you're still watching, shout out to you. Thank you for doing that. Appreciate you. And this, we've never done a tier breaker before, so it's a little rough around the edges.
I mean, even like Ginga, this is a perfect argument. Like when we get to Ginga later, this would be same thing. Like Ginga main, Ginga in a deck. I'd expect to see Ginga somewhere.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's like more helpful. So if you're here chatting, let us know what you think would be more helpful. Is how should we give us some thoughts? How should we structure these kind of prediction or tier list type things in the future? Because it's very confusing when you have multiple combinations that are viable and also 2-deck format. It kind of makes things a little bit wonkier compared to normal. So anyway, let's move on to Belial. Belial for me is I actually think it's an S.
I expect it specifically since we're talking about 2-deck as well. Belial, I have a hard time seeing Belial losing twice, if that makes sense.
I'm going to put it in A because I think Belial is not. I feel conflicted. I feel that Belial is not necessarily like as popular as it is here in maybe like the Asia countries.
True. Yeah.
And also I hate being like this, but like I don't think that people are building Belial in the same way that I am that might bump it to this level. Or like I don't think people are thinking about Belial in a way that I think might bump it to this level. And so I think
I'm okay with A tier. Like like I wouldn't be too surprised if if I see the Belial deck, I'm like, yeah, that's an S tier Belial deck. Because there's a lot of 5 Kings of Trap still, in my opinion. If you start trying to throw in 5 King, it's gonna move down a tier. I think there's a lot of time this set for people to find the right balance between. I think there's gonna be a couple key cards. Katana Thor, really strong against non-level 4 decks.
Yeah.
So you might want a couple of those, kind of like where people are trying out, like, do you want some Mephistos or do you want some like Curioloids? Curioloid is actually, I feel like, going to be more valuable if you're seeing a lot of Tigas.
Yeah, because of this
being able to just like turn 3 if you play or turn 3 or turn 4 if you play a Curioloid single, like you'll just block either the triple R or you'll even block the new double R. It'll bump itself to 17k, so it loses Curioloid. So you'll have Curioloid to consider. The new Metrons, I think, are still really interesting.
Yeah.
Or like Zero has a lot of burst, but then Metron has a lot of burst and like take over a lane.
Yeah,
so I feel
that's true. That's true.
I'm happy with that.
I think I'm happiest with A, especially if we think about like this first month where like we don't know really what's going to be good. And I think Belial is a deck that gets better when you know what people are probably going to be playing. I think that's why that's one of the reasons like I attribute my success in New York to, is because I think I had a pretty good understanding of what decks other people were going to play, and I made sure that like my deck was built as good as possible to beat those decks, and it worked out.
And I feel like we're going to see a little more variety in this meta, so it might be even harder to have like going. I forgot to mention the most important card, which is what keeps Belial no matter what in the A tier is the promo Zeton. Like,
yeah,
that. I mean, most of the decks we've looked at in this list are going to be mono heavy. Maybe Arc will be the only one that's non-mono, but it's going to be tricky.
Yeah, exactly. Belial can't go below here just because of the promo Zeton, I feel like, because basically every deck that I think is like really good right now is almost all one Ultra.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of decks that probably aren't, is a Dyna main, and this could go so many ways. Like for me, it's going to be a Dyna Arc, just Dyna heavy, but I do think Dyna has like a lot of potential.
Yeah. I think Dyna could be A tier because I want to put it above Z and Gaia.
Yeah,
I feel like it's still a little below Decker, but that could be right around a right spot for it.
Yeah, that feels about right. It's hard for me to think of like other combinations because I'm like so tuned in on like Dyna Art. But I think I've heard some people like have reasonable success with like Dyna Nexus in the past. I think someone was mentioning Dyna X potentially, something that like I might want to look into. Yeah. Okay, let's do next is Omega. This is an easy S tier for me.
Yeah.
This actually in our brief games, I think not that these are in like any particular order, but
Yeah.
I do think like Omega feels like the strongest deck to me, with just some brief games.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll take a while to like settle in the build. I think we've discussed that before, but like I think
it has all the pieces you need for an S tier deck.
Yeah, it will be. This is like, at least in my mind, is like one of the decks to beat for sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
very
cool.
easily so.
Pretty easy there. We have Blazar. I think Blazar. Obviously, Tiga Blazar is a really strong pairing, but it's not. Blazar is not the star of the show. He is there for Scarred, and I think that's how Blazar's kind of existence is right now. So I think we've got to drop him down, probably to no top 8.
So we might revisit this after the Ultra deck comes out,
right?
Which will be kind of like a good bit after many of these qualifiers. Because Blazar actually hasn't had support yet. He is getting support after the Ultra deck, which is where the Recycle 2, I think, is going to be strong. Mm-hmm. There's going to be there has to be, I think, at least one or two other new abilities. So we will come back to Blazar, I think, as like even a main deck. But right now, your 2 triple Rs that are really powerful is like a -3000, which I feel like it's a weaker on play than what Zero has. Just because Zero can combo and go all in more effectively. Blazar, you can all go all in on one lane, but you still need the other lanes to win.
And I think Blazar actually lost its biggest strength, which was like when you played a Blazar triple, you guaranteed won that lane.
Yeah.
But none of the Blazar triples beat a quad, a level 4.
Yeah.
They all tie them. And that's really tough. That's really tough. It's like the main way Blazar trying to win. Okay, we've got Jeed here. Jeed is, so for me, Jeed is a very strong deck that maybe has some consistency issues. I'm a toss up. So why don't you tie break me here between S and A?
So I feel like of many of the S tier decks, Jeed has a really strong chance at like taking lead turns 4 and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get the Jeed seen online, you're pretty much set to win. But yeah, I think it's probably got some of the strongest options in terms of taking lead.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's hard to kill, especially with the double that like ties a lane. Like there's, you can, it's pretty good at stalling. So I think it'll be definitely. I mean, it'll definitely be at least A. I agree. Will it be an S tier deck? I don't know if it'll be very close between Tiga and Jeed, but I feel like Tiga's a little bit easier to set up. Like if Tiga starts off as lead like from turn 3,
Yeah,
it's a lot better at tying, I think, Jeed lanes, because you can make
true.
17Ks pretty easily. Jeed's going to be a little trickier to make an 18K and try and steal lead. So
I'm a believer. I think actually I think Jeed is a winner.
Yeah.
I think if I have to bump it down to A, it's probably because people won't have quite like, especially for Singapore, people won't have quite cracked this. If it was just Singapore, I think I put it here. I think by the end of the month, people will kind of like.
I mean, I'm okay with putting it S tier because of that. And I think there's still some room to explore. Like, do you splash in just a little bit of another character or something to fix those weaknesses? So it's definitely a deck that can become very easily part of the winners.
For sure. Okay, next is Rosso. This is going to be Rosso Blue. We don't have Blue on the list. Sorry, he's not a real character by himself. I should have put him, but I kind of forgot. So that's my bad.
I mean, I don't know if people are going to be playing Rosso Z or Rosso, like anything that's not Rosso Blue.
Anything
to be
that's
honest,
not Rosso
like,
Blue. Yeah.
This is just pretty much Rosso Blue.
Yeah. This is an easy B for me. I think it was definitely a top 8 last set. I think there's a lot of new stuff that can give it even more of a run for its money, and so it just kind of gets bummed down a little bit there.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we pretty much agree with that. There's nothing new, nothing that we need to really talk about. Ginga, we've mentioned a little bit. It's a great support cast, but as a Ginga main, which I would say Ginga Victory is the main deck we're thinking about here. Have you practiced at all with Ginga Victory and like your brief testing sessions yet?
Not with the new decks, but if I'm thinking about Ginga Victory, think about like, I mean, if there's a lot of basics, it just helps Ginga Victory across the board. But it's a little tricky to say because before, like, Ginga 17, 18Ks were always like pretty solid and you'd be able to win. But I think a lot of the new decks are able to either just beat it with the 20K or like Jeed has like BP ups. Like you can have the 2-3 Jeed and hit 18K pretty easily, or Omega has a lot more options to like get some BP towns. I feel like it's B for me. I think it's still very strong, but
I think it feels strong, but I think that the newer, like especially the level 4 decks, can either just like outright beat the 17s, or they're like putting out so much power on the board that like they can kind of maneuver around like 117K double, and they can kind of beat a lot of the 16. Like even if you get the 16K victories out, or 16, 17K victories out, they can kind of maneuver their way around them or beat them. It's not so punishing as it was before. I do think though that, and maybe we can talk about victory now, because one of the things that stands out, I'm going to put this in B. It feels very similar, like they're kind of two sides of the same coin. But one thing that I think is really important for victory is that the double rare from set 4, I don't remember the name, is good against basic and power. And I think that kind of hits both Tiga and Jeet here, which I think are some of the stronger decks. And it actually hits Dyna too. Dyna's mostly basic. The sorry, oh my gosh, I'm tripping over my words. The triple rare from set 4 is a basic, and the new one is a power. So the power basic double coverage is actually really strong right now. I think that could do well.
Yeah, I think it'll definitely play very well into these decks. Like I would not be surprised seeing it like be in top 8 win. It'll definitely win matches like against G victory decks. The weird number is just like that one cops out at 17K.
Yeah.
So if you match it into the wrong Jeed or into the wrong Tiga, you actually still kind of lose, which is weird.
Well, if you get the triple victory, it will be an 18K.
That is true.
So that's something that's nice. Okay, the things that like really hurt this deck and why I would not put it as like an A would probably be the fact that you're much less likely to be able to use the Magna Wave scene.
Yeah.
Which hurts a lot if you don't have the right type matchups. And also, what was the other one? I don't know what I was going to say. But I do think that in exchange for Magna Wave, the new victory scene is very strong.
Yeah.
I think it takes away BP grade increase from the opponent, right? That's a pretty big deal. It's only a one use scene, which kind of sucks, but that card's pretty strong. So we're just gonna see some new version of Ginga Victory, however it comes together, and it might top 8, but I'm not. I might bump it up to 8, top 8, because I think people are used to it. But I think when this kind of the dust settles, it's not quite hitting the same power as the level 4 decks. All right, let's do X. Probably my favorite deck from set 4 that was not very good. I'm not feel inspired with confidence for X. It's like it's got some really crazy things, and like also like they just don't really come together, I think, in a cohesive way.
I want to put it at C, just thinking that
I'm C.
If you land these like preventing a level up, it's really strong. But all the top decks aren't like what's the word? Like they're not all consistent. Like Tiga is going to have a nice split between power basic. Same with G.
The mono type decks are gone.
Yeah.
There's no more Bolton. It's only Invasion. Arc is, I think, we said will still be good, but it's not like one of the decks for sure. So hitting that like random off the top chance is not as likely. And if you don't get that, it's going to feel kind of rough, because it's a deck that has really, like, the new scene is crazy. The new scene is so good, but it's not like, how are you going to get lead? And then the new triple rare is also like, you have to have scene to use this effect. How are you going to get lead? So it's like the big question for X is, how can you like maintain what the deck's trying to do, but also get lead? And like Ginga might not be enough to get lead when you really need it these days. So that's kind of the tricky part there where X is in. And so we've got 3 decks left. I think we're just going to speed run the last 2. Sorry, Ken Sato. Sorry, Gil Arc. Everyone knows you're not going to get top 8. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Happy to be proven wrong, though. If someone
would love to be proven wrong,
be
but I'm not expecting anything from this. So our last deck is the last level 4 deck we have on the list, which is Zero. It's definitely S or A, but which one is it?
I mean, Zero, when you have all the right cards, it's very strong. And it's like there's no like deck like Bolton that's gonna like be super consistent, give you a hard time. So, I mean, one question I have for you is, like, because you played with Zero more, how does it compare, in your opinion, to the other 3 that are currently in S?
This might be a weird take. I think if Zero draws well, you beat anybody. Probably. I think if Zero doesn't draw well, it's really tough, or it's like kind of relying on your opponent not to do so well.
Yeah.
And I think those games happen a lot more than your like God Hand games. So my feeling is that, and I also haven't tried this against like Omega specifically, which I think is like, to me, that's the deck right now. So I'm gonna put it. My gut is A here. And when I put Zero there, it makes me want to drag G down too. And my reasoning for this is because it's a deck that's consistent enough to like win you a ton in like the Swiss rounds. But like if you think about like getting from top 8 to winner, you can't really afford like just non games.
Yeah.
And I think Zero has more non games than I would like to admit, and I think G has also more non games than I'd like to admit. So I kind of want to pull G down.
I think that's a fair
as well
assessment. We could do that, because that's a a pretty good way to actually phrase it really is that these are all going to be strong decks. You're going to get plenty of wins in Swiss, but to go between top 8 to the winner, you then have to go through 3 more rounds, no losses, which means you have to have very consistent, good amount of luck splashed in, and good matchups into whatever else you're facing. There's also something to be said about being good against the mirror in some of these, but that's maybe a topic for another day.
That might be a lot to go into. I think there's a lot of decks, but I'm looking at these and I would not want to play mirror matches. So that's something. So I think this is pretty good to how I feel. I kind of moved these so that all the level 4s were all level 5s were kind of together. I'll move Arc and Dyna next to each other. So this is our list. We'll review it again. So for those of you who skipped to the end of the video, welcome. This is basically a tier list for who is going to be like a main focus of a deck and where we think they'll do. So we got Omega, which is it's going to take time to find the right formula, but that deck is crazy. It's got BP up, it's got BP down, it's got plus 1000s, plus 2000s. It's got searching. It's got everything there. You just got to get everything right. Tiga is here, maybe partially on the back of the fact that many Tiga variations exist, but also it's just a crazy strong deck. There's no two ways around it. This deck is super duper strong.
It's also, I feel like, the easiest one to do a non-mono character, which I think will give it a leg up against Belial decks.
Yeah.
If you're a Decker or mono G'd and then you accidentally get paired into a Belial, you could just lose your top 8 run right there.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have top 8. These are decks, Ultra Hero mains that we'd expect to see in the top 8, but I might struggle with consistency or power level into the top 8, into a winner position. I think the first 3 decks, which are all level 4 decks, the Decker, G'd, and Zero, are more on the consistency side, where I worry that they might draw badly and then you lose in a game that you really couldn't afford to lose just because you drew badly, which feels bad. Where these 3 feel like they could be on the power end a little bit, where you might be able to draw everything you want, but it still might come a bit short against the level 4 decks. So the level 4 decks are definitely defining the new power level of the format, at least in my mind. Belial is there because Promo Zeton is crazy, and a lot of decks will be kind of forced into this mono or close to mono just because of how level 4s and the ratios work. That's to be said there. I would say B generally is it's kind of like the old guard, if you will. It's what it's like. It's the decks that were quite strong in the last meta but didn't get updates, and I think maybe got bumped down a little bit because of that. And then C is some of the newer decks, just decks that they seem strong, but they're not quite. Either they're not getting good support or they're not quite where they need to be the star of the show, the main Ultra Heroes. Like Orb was a might top 8 last time. It got bumped down. A lot of the decks are just getting bumped down here. And then the no top 8s are decks that just either got major nerfs or just can't function well as a main Ultra Hero, or like Blazer, we should mention that the level 4 significantly nerf one of Blazer's main strengths and win conditions. Yeah, so that's it for our tier list, kind of predictions of what might come, what might happen for the upcoming qualifiers, especially Singapore next week. Very excited to see that. And Australia, Hong Kong, Korea is going to happen sometime this month, maybe. I didn't check the dates on that. And then right at the beginning of December is Ohio for the US. So thanks for watching. I hope you thought it was a fun listen. And we'll catch you in the next one. Bye.
Thanks.